Chapter 7. Meanwhile, in the secret room, Moira and Malcolm were having a conversation that was neither intense nor dull. Malcolm, you actually want Thea to participate in the company's operations? You're getting crazier and crazier. She's still a child. She should continue to complete her high school studies. She should have a happy life, not go to the company and scheme with those people. Moira protested in a low voice. Listen to me, okay? Currently, Thea is the only heir of Quinn Enterprises. You don't object to that, right? Do you think you're helping her by indulging her? Look at Oliver, who you've taught. Dissolute, and irresponsible. That's your biggest failure. Malcolm reprimanded her sternly. Hearing his words, Moira showed a sarcastic smile. Tommy, who you've taught, isn't that good either. These words made Comrade Old Ma feel a little awkward. This was no longer a matter of the pot calling the kettle black. One had to know that Oliver and Tommy were the playboys of the playboys. The two of them were always at the top of the list of debauchery. Oliver had been expelled from 4 schools, while Tommy's record was 3. After that, the two of them never went to school again. Parties, women, and ice skating. The two of them competed fiercely in all aspects. Over the years, they had won and lost. Until now, there was no clear winner. After reflecting on his teaching methods, he decided to put aside the question of who was worse. Well, let's put this question aside for now. Sooner or later, you'll need Thea to take over everything. You don't object to that, right? Of course not. I love Thea. She's my child, Malcolm said in a low voice. She's my child too. After saying this, the two of them felt a little depressed. They walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and saw Tommy, Thea, and Laurel talking in the hall. Didn't you tell Tommy about that? Why are they still hanging out together? Moira looked at the three of them talking intimately. She found it irritating. Malcolm thought to himself, I haven't seen my son since the funeral. How should I tell him? Should I text him? Every main character has a younger sister. In order for a good-for-nothing like you to not lose at the starting line, your father gave you a younger sister who is brimming with talent? If you want to know more, you can come back and talk. He didn't know when the relationship between him and his son had fallen from worship to neutrality. His son's request for him was to be a good ATM machine. I haven't had the chance to say it yet. I'm going to. Before he could finish, Moira interrupted, You're crazy. Don't you know what will happen if they continue to develop like this? Malcolm panicked. How could he not know that she was just Thea's mother? She had nothing to do with Tommy. She only had the right to speak here. However, both of them were his children, and he owned 12% of the shares. What if Thea did something out of revenge or to destroy everything? In any case, given Malcolm's current crazed state of mind, he could have done even worse things if he were in Malcolm's shoes. All kinds of wild thoughts were making the big boss so anxious that he could not sleep at night. He could only instruct his subordinates to keep an eye on them 24/7, but this was not a long-term solution. Besides, Tommy was not talking to him at all. He had no chance to explain all this. He could not tie his son up in black with a bow and arrow and let him listen to his stories from a long time ago, could he? The complicated interpersonal relationship made Old Ma a little depressed, but he continued to explain his purpose. My education is a failure, but we're both still alive. The mistakes of young people can be corrected. I'm going to let Tommy work at the Merlin Group in the near future. You can also let Thea enter the Quinn Group. Let's see how far the two young people can go. If Thea performs well, maybe she can inherit the Merlin Group. These words made Moira's eyes light up. She had to admit that women had a tendency to take advantage of others. When she heard that her daughter had the opportunity to inherit the Merlin Group, she immediately abandoned the idea of Thea having a happy high school life. Although she had watched Tommy grow up, Moira decided to facilitate this for her daughter's future. After thinking for a while, she said readily, Okay, I promise you. I'll go back and talk to Thea. Malcolm said again, We can't help. It depends on their own ability. Moira nodded in agreement. In fact, both of them were a little nervous because they did not see any talent in the two children. Thea was a good girl before, and her life at home and school was nothing special. Tommy was a master of spending money, but his ability to make money was just a joke. At the same time, Malcolm also felt that his son could not communicate normally at the moment. In order to avoid something big, it was also a way to stop his daughter. There was still too little work to do in the Quinn group, and she could only control the time during the day. What about at night? Maybe he should find something for her to do. What? Mom, you want me to work at the Quinn group tomorrow? I'm only 15 years old. Although Thea wanted to inherit the Quinn group, she did not expect to be appointed so soon. Is there a child labor law in your country? And I don't know anything. What can I do when I'm just a freshman in high school? If Tony Stark were to come over now, he would be at a loss. When Moira returned home, she also felt that this was not a good idea, but she had already agreed. Compared to Tommy, she felt that her daughter had a better chance. Of course, this was similar to the bet between the 7 freaks of Jiangnan and Qiujichu, so she could not tell her daughter. She deliberated for a while and said, "Thea, you've grown up. This company will be yours in the future, and it can only be yours. Whether it's for your father or your brother in heaven, you have to take on this responsibility as soon as possible. Don't run away, this is your destiny." Whenever this was mentioned in American dramas, there would be a lot of words behind it. It was a bit like the fetters in Japanese manga. When this word came out, it meant that you could not refuse. Thea said hesitantly, "What can I do in the company?" What she meant was that she was still young and could not reach the goal in one step, but as her mother, she should at least assign her a good job. In fact, Moira was also wondering what she could do when she was so young and had not even graduated from high school, let alone a degree. Although the Quinn group was a family business, there were still outsiders who had shares. It was just that her family had an absolute majority. Pushing a high school student to a leadership position was obviously a move to send a weapon to the competitor's news media. The news of her husband and son's death had just been broadcasted every day and had just died down a little in the past 2 days. The Quinn family would be completely famous in America. These concerns could not be told to her daughter. If she told the truth, based on her understanding of her daughter, Thea would definitely take advantage of the situation and quit completely. She could only use the delaying tactic to delay for a few days. At that moment, Moira said seriously, "You'll know your arrangement when the time comes. I'll ask the secretary to show you the information of the group later. You should have a general understanding of the group first. Tomorrow, I'll take you to meet a few executives." Chapter 8. Secretaries came and went quickly, just like in the song. After handing Thea a large stack of documents, Moira instructed her to go back to her room and read them carefully. Following her mother's order, Thea went back to her room with several large documents in her arms. This was the foundation for him to settle down in the future. He had to look at it carefully. At the same time, he took out his notebook and recorded the positions and resumes of several important people. He also did a simple personality analysis according to the way they did things. Who knew which subordinate he would be assigned to tomorrow? It was always right to be prepared. Why did she only record a few executives? Would they be assigned to the security department? How could it be possible? She was the only heir. How could her mother assign her daughter to be a security guard? This was a transformation novel, not a return novel. She carefully analyzed the current situation of the Quinn group. The entire group employed more than 30,000 people and had branches all over the world. Its main business was steel smelting and non-ferrous metal mining. Its steel share accounted for 7% of the United States and 1% of the world's. It was barely a tycoon in the steel industry. At the same time, the group had also diversified its business. It had invested a lot in weapon research and development and biopharmaceutical, and had made some achievements. However, the research results had not been turned into an economic growth point. The huge amount of investment every year was still a heavy burden on the group. Looking through the various reports in her hand and comparing them with the data of last year, she could see that the group had been investing in the real estate industry for the whole year. The originally abundant cash flow had shrunk. This was definitely not the situation of a healthy company. Looking at the map of Star City, Thea immediately found that the land purchased by the group was in the slums. Recalling the plot, it seemed that old Robert had asked her mother to do this. In order to prevent Malcolm from destroying the slums, He had been secretly purchasing the properties in the slums. Thea really did not understand what kind of mentality he had. Old Robert had known Malcolm for so many years, but he did not see that this man had no bottom line and no moral pressure. He had placed all his hopes in his hands. Just because they were good friends, he would not do anything? How was that possible? Malcolm did not lay his hands on those people. He killed them directly. The notebook that old Luo had passed to Oliver did not have Malcolm's name on it. Even until his death, he did not realize that his good friend of many years would do such a thing to him. If old Luo had warned him beforehand, Oliver would have found old Ma and shot him from afar. The first episode would have ended in one episode instead of 23. Looking at the densely packed land purchase certificates, Thea had a bit of a headache. 6 years later, Malcolm tried to imitate Whitebeard's battle with Marin Van Doe, but it shook more than half of the entire slum. These lands had to be smashed in her hands. Star City was a city plagued with disasters. In the first year of the storyline, Malcolm used his ultimate move, Earthquake. Under Green Arrow's desperate efforts, more than 500 people died, including his own son, Tommy. In the second year, Death Knell brought a few hundred evolved soldiers to play real-life Dota on the streets. Blood flowed like a river. In the third year, Ninja Master carried out the Resident Evil simulation and spread the virus. In the fourth year, that person who knew magic directly brought more than 15,000 nuclear bombs as a Christmas gift to prepare to destroy the world. In such a place with so many outstanding people, it would take a miracle for her family to buy these lands and hope to escape poverty. Looking at these forms with a pen in her mouth, Thea became more and more desperate. The purchase of land did not stop because of old Robert's death. In the short 2 weeks that she had transmigrated, her family had bought 3 more pieces of land. It seemed that her mother was faithfully carrying out her late husband's last wish. But this was really a road of no return. This meant that Quinn Group would continue to throw money into this puddle for the next few years. She had lost some of her organs, otherwise, she would definitely make a pained expression. No wonder in the 3rd season, Atomic Knight Palmer easily bought Quinn Group. He could still hold on for 8 years even though he was desperately courting death. The years. The group was really rich, but it was her own money that was wasted. In order for the future Green Arrow to not live off his girlfriend, and in order for her to not have to work as a security guard with a bright future, she had to reverse this policy. It was easier said than done. Her words carried little weight now. She could not say that in the future, her biological father would make the land move with him when he drank too much. No one would believe her. She could only hope that she could reverse the company's policy when she climbed to a high position. As for stopping her father's actions, Thea had also considered it. She might be able to stop the crisis in the first year with their relationship, but what about the second year? What about the third year? There were too many irresistible factors. She was not invincible yet. There were still 5 years before the plot began. She would take it one step at a time. The next day, Thea woke up early and put on some light makeup. Fortunately, her original soul was the main, and her transmigrated soul was the auxiliary, so these skills were still there. Looking at the few clothes in front of her, she was a little embarrassed. After all, it was her first day of work, so she had to dress formally. She found a short beige suit with a navy blue straight skirt. The skirt was not long, but it was not short either. It just covered her knees, making her look less young and more capable. She chose a pair of black high heels less than 5 centimeters and tried to walk steadily for 2 steps. The initial discomfort had subsided a lot. Thea's original body was getting more and more dominant. She looked in the mirror and decided to dress up like this. When they arrived downstairs, Moira had been waiting for a while. She knew her daughter quite well. Sia's original character was fickle, to put it nicely. To put it bluntly, she was a pushover. The more you don't let her do something, the more she will do it. She originally thought that Thea would be very resistant to her arrangement and was thinking about how to persuade her. When she saw her daughter come downstairs in a formal suit without scissors or gasoline bottles, Moira knew that her daughter was obedient to her arrangement, which made Moira very happy. The two got in the car and Thea kept asking about the current situation of the group. After all, some things could not be written on paper, which made Moira even happier. What did this mean? Since her daughter could ask questions, it meant that her daughter had read the information carefully. If she asked Oliver, he would not even know where the door of his group was. In order to make up for the coldness she showed to her mother a few days ago, Thea also deliberately behaved more intimately. When they arrived at the entrance of the group, Moira was so happy that she could not close her mouth. Her 2 children had made her unhappy for 20 years. One only knew how to cause trouble, and the other was cold to her. She had waited until the clouds parted to see the moon. Although her son was dead, her daughter was sensible, which was also a kind of comfort to her. Moira, who was in a good mood, was looking forward to the martial arts competition between the 2 families in Jiaxing. No, it was more than a competition of ability. She pulled Thea into the group.